I mean, the signs point to that eventually the market will likely respond and change. And if it's taking longer or there are reasons that are stopping it from happening on the res side, like my thought is, yeah, eventually they'll respond more. We'll also probably see rents go up more too. So
That's
you'll see a kind of combined effect. Welcome back to the REI Hot Seat. I've got Jacob Campagnaro here at last.
I'm back.
It's been a while, so it feels like anyway. Anyways, Jake, you're just busy crushing deals and doing a million different things. So finally we found a time where we're both in the office and
There we go.
doing some stuff here. So
No, it's great.
today we're talking about a 25 res unit plus 5 commercial unit building somewhere in Southwestern Ontario. We've got to be a little cryptic because well, it's an off-market deal and we weren't given permission to talk about this. So we're just going to stay a little bit generalized. But it is a deal you have access to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what it is, just high level.
Yeah, so it's a pretty standard mixed use building, right? So you have your main floor is going to consist of retail commercial. In this building in particular, we have a couple restaurants, we have a couple governmental uses, and then, variety store and things like that, the usual.
So like main level is all commercial.
Correct.
And then above, is this like on a main like street somewhere? Or?
Yeah. So it's a downtown
Okay.
of a big city.
Yeah.
And then we have 25 res units, mix of 1-2 beds.
Yeah. Okay.
And this was actually originally it was kind of built as that downtown style, so it was almost like three, 4 separate buildings. But they were all over time built into one, and has a nice street presence to it.
Okay, so like, is it like really old school? Like we're talking like a century, old, or is it more like?
No, I would say you're getting into
the
century period here. And you'll see,
because if you think of those old school downtowns,
that's
like
what it is.
Even in Woodstock, Ontario, if you go through there, like they have those old red brick buildings and stuff. Like they're all sandwiched to each other, right?
Yeah. This one's a little prettier than that because I know what you're talking about, and they're kind of jagged and not really lined up. But no, this is
properly
nice
built, but
yes,
okay, still desirable as a unit. I mean, what would we be looking at for? Well, first off, we'll just cover the price point. $6 million is what they're asking.
Yep.
So it's not a small price tag. So you're basically, what is that? Is that $200,000 a unit? If you
200 a unit,
yeah,
you're getting a lot of real estate here, right? It's almost a whole block.
Almost a whole block.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the neat part is, so with this, and you may have heard this, you may have not, but with this type of real estate, we talk CMHC mortgage, right? We always talk about CMHC. I'm sure everybody that listens to the show has heard that a million times now. But usually with commercial mixed use, CMHC doesn't apply. So the cutoff is 30%.
You can't
so
have
if 30% of the building is commercial, you're good to do CMHC. Anything over 30%, it's actually now it's not eligible for CMHC, and you have to go down conventional financing.
And this is what, 6%? How much? What percentage is this?
Of commercial, I think you're about 25% commercial.
On this one, yeah. So what am I thinking? So 5 over 30 is the calculation. 16%.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. And it's of a gross floor area, but that math is fine for this.
Okay, so it's still under 25?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so anyhow, so we do actually hit the targets to do CMHC financing with this building, which is exciting because it changes a lot of things.
So then you could do 40-year M?
Yep.
No MLI Select unless you, well, that might not even exist soon, right? That program's in flux.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Because so the CMHC just updated their guidelines last week.
Okay.
Right. So it was a bit of an upset in the market, made a lot of different assumptions. But essentially the biggest factor is, okay, so their premiums went up, the rates went up slightly, which is probably one of the biggest changes. And outside of that, they've also updated their underwriting expenses. So for example, previous to last week, so for a typical brick and concrete building, your R&M with the old CMHC was somewhere between $750 to $800 a door. Right, that was usually the baseline underwriting for it. It's actually now gone up to $975 a door.
Okay.
Right. Likewise with your salaries. Right. So CMHC will usually underwrite for salaries, which we'll call superintendent. We'll call that common area cleaning, snow and landscape, whatever you want to call it. It's the cost to kind of clean up the building. And that was used to be run at $400. Now that's now running at $700. So a door.
$700 a door.
$700 a door annually. So you can see that your expenses have now increased which is going to
drop your loan amounts.
It's going to drop your loan amounts.
It's going to make it harder to debt coverage. Yeah.
And once your loan amounts drop and your interest rate increases, well, what's that going to do? It's going to inflate your cap rate. Right.
Well, it's going to have upward pressure on cap rates.
Of course. So then value is going to come down.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of things last week that happened where, we're still kind of picking up the pieces because of that. But what the good news is, and why I'm going down this road, it's not all doom and gloom, because they're not going to reassess this for another year.
So they've said it's coming, but it's not done yet.
No. This has come into action.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is MLI Select, right? It was on the chopping block per se, or they were going to change it.
It's still there.
But now it's good for another year.
Still there.
Right? So although they've become a little bit more stringent on the underwriting, we have the knowledge now that we're okay for MLI Select at least for another 12 months.
Yeah,
which is good news.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I'm going to go over high level on this one. Some of the numbers that have been included in this package. I didn't put this together for the record. So 30 units, $6 million purchase. You can see the mix of bachelors, 1s, 2s, 3s, commercial, there being 5 units. Parking, there's a question mark there, so I guess we'll have to confirm that one.
Mm-hmm.
But everything here you can see is a little bit under market rent, so there's some ranges given. So there's some upward potential here, probably some older tenants, legacy tenants that could be turned over time. So whoever put this together basically had worked it out, the different math of like how much more you could get on each unit. And this is sort of the icing on the cake. If you're happy with the purchase price and cap rate as is, that there's actually a potential to add quite a bit more to the top line here. So I just want to see, what did he have here for? Well, he's an annual income of 567 right now, with the potential to add in 250 based on current. Now that's assuming you optimize the whole building, and that's never really going to happen in 1 year unless you go real aggressive.
Let's say you can even throw 100, 150 onto the bottom line. Then, right.
So this one is starting at, so they're showing a pretty comprehensive list of expenses. So you've got taxes on the property itself. You've got insurance, gas, hydro, water. Well, that's redundancy. Electric and water. Like a pet peeve of mine.
That catches me out every time.
They call me the numbers guy. I'm like, the hydro is electric and water guy. I always get labeled the numbers guy. Anyways, okay. So maintenance, they've got a 30,000 in here, which is a 10% estimate. So that's nice and conservative, actually. I like that. Superintendent, they've got it in here at $650 a unit. So CMHC guidelines, they're going to want to see a slight adjustment there, right? What did you say? You said it was 700
for salaries.
For the salaries,
700 a unit.
700, yeah. Advertising and MISC, I'm not even sure CMHC has a number for that, so that helps you there. If you're
there's a 1% miscellaneous.
Oh, they do have
they do have a 1%.
And then professional fees, that's also a special bonus in here. A lot of people wouldn't include that. I'm guessing that's any sort of professional inspections you have to have done on the building.
Banking fees, whatever, right? All those other costs here.
That's a good point to touch on, because I mean, when we buy, say, like the camp and the resort recently, like we're doing environmental assessment, we're doing building condition analysis, all that stuff. When you own a building and you're continuing through, unless you're doing some sort of remediation, you don't really need to get any reports on the go, right?
No.
You just need to satisfy your lender's requirements. So if they have an annual reporting requirement, they might actually ask you for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're working through that process right now.
Well, and it would be the only scenario where I'd see an environmental happening is if you do have contaminants, right? And you do go to a phase 3, which is kind of risk management. And let's say you put a well and the bank says, okay, well, every 2 years, we want you to send in a test.
A test, right?
Test of the well.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that we don't need to do further remediation of the site.
Yeah.
So there's things like that. But no, like all those reports, like we can't really include those in the ongoing pro forma.
But you don't really need them on the ongoing,
you don't,
right?
That's why we don't.
It's only situational, right?
So when they say professional fees, I think more, legal fees, banking fees, right? All the small things.
Yeah,
that people forget
if you're involving lawyers, paralegals to evict people, if that's part of what you're doing, I mean that could be some of that. They might have done some other stuff. Bookkeeping, they might have been employing somebody. Their accountant's fees. Yep. So. Okay, so then they got property management in here at 3.5%. Oh, they're getting a deal.
But they do have a site super.
So combine that with the site super. I think there's ways to insource that and make that work at $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So that all tallies up to leave 296,000 left, which I worked out to be a 4.94 cap, which, 18 months ago sounded great. Doesn't sound as great now. But of course, if you see that there's a lot of upside, then maybe it does make it work.
Well, and you're looking at a 5 cap, right? Let's just say it how it is. Okay. So 6 million's 4.9. Okay. So let's get it to a 5, right?
Yeah.
And I still think that compared to what's sitting on MLS right now, Andrew, I think that's still a win. Right? Like, I don't know if you've I haven't really been sending you much.
I haven't been browsing the MLS
you
listings.
go through MLS, and I swear everything I've seen in the last 3-4 months has all been like 4 cap, 3.9 cap.
I actually saw
just totally outrageous pricing.
Somebody posted something the other day and just showed how, like, over time you've always seen cap rates and interest rates sort of follow on a graph, and then recently you just see interest rates shoot up, but cap rates haven't responded.
Well, at least
yet,
and we got to be. And I have to say that we have done off-market deals. Actually, many of the deals that you and I ran on this show, where we have been hitting caps that are reasonable. Mid 5s, 6s. Right.
Yeah.
I don't imagine, I don't think Ontario will ever see the 10 cap or just based on
so many variables, just so many. That's another whole episode we could talk about. But so I just ran a quick number here while you were talking, and if we just added on the potential rent of $259 onto what they get as a net, because you're assuming you're just taking all the things you're currently doing and replacing the tenants for higher paying ones. So theoretically, expenses shouldn't really go up because you're not adding more tenants. You're just making the ones that are there pay more, essentially. That would be like a 9 cap. Yeah. So, but you really have to work for that. Like, it's not just going to happen. Yeah, it's not just going to happen.
And I would never recommend, especially in this market, like, I wouldn't recommend somebody going in, buying a building that's negative cash flow, banking on the fact that they're going to turn over every single unit.
Yeah.
We just know that's not realistic. Right. Another thing I'll mention, though, so with these mixed use buildings, and it's something that myself and my team, we started diving into much more nowadays than previous, was these mixed use buildings. We find that there's better value in these buildings. Not in this case, but take, for example, if one of these mixed use buildings don't fall under that 30% ratio for CMHC. Yeah. Right. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means our interest rates now are going to be following traditional rates.
Yeah.
Which are what? 6.5%, 7% now?
Yeah.
Maybe even more.
Yeah.
Right. So the most recent CMHC changes didn't affect these buildings.
Yeah.
But these buildings were actually affected 6 months ago when the rates started to climb.
Right.
So those landlords already took their kicking.
Yeah.
Right. So right now, my team and I were actually sourcing these buildings, and we've found that the conversations between a concrete and brick guy, or sorry, like a traditional like walk up, versus a mixed use owner, the mixed use owner conversation is actually much easier right now. Right. Because you can't really argue, like, you can't have an interest rate 2 points higher than your cap rate.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Right. And because they, I feel like with the walk-up apartment buildings, they were all being kind of like artificially inflated by the CMHC thing.
But that's only good enough for, X number of years. Oh, you're just saying because they can extend out the amortization.
Well, they can extend the AM, but your interest rate was so low that people were still saying, well, I'm asking a 4.5 cap, but the interest rate's only 4.25.
Yeah.
Right. And it's still cash flow. So people were paying 4.25 cap, and that's why we haven't seen the cap rates move. But where I'm going with this anyways is these mixed use buildings, I think people need to pay more attention to them. Because the value's there.
Because the CMHC can't offset some of that.
So the cap rate,
challenge.
The cap rates should be matching the interest rates.
Yeah,
so,
they should be responding anyway. You don't want a direct match. You prefer maybe making a higher cap rate than your interest rate, because you also have amortization and principal repayment and all that.
Right. So it's just something to keep in mind, because it's a smaller sec that a lot of people don't really chase.
So you're just going to have an easier time, especially if they can't qualify for the CMHC side. There's less reason for them to hold out for the higher price.
And let's talk about one more benefit, Andrew, which is going to be long-term commercial leases with built-in escalations. Right? Yeah. So commercial leases do not follow the landlord and tenant board.
Yeah, you can just jack them appropriately.
Right. So when we sign a commercial lease, like if I'm doing a lease with you, I would say, hey, Andrew, okay, you're looking for a 5-year lease, right? Yeah. You come in, I'm going to say, well, I want 5% escalations every year for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So I know I can put it in my numbers. I can talk to the bank about
it's happening.
I know in 5 years, it's going to be $1 every year on top of what you originally paid.
Yeah.
And That's a beautiful thing to build that in. And if you don't pay your bill, well, I'll lock your doors and sell your stuff inside the unit, right? Like there's no landlord and tenant. So it's a lot of really interesting things. Now the negatives are, well, what if a tenant leaves? Okay. Now you might have a 6-month lease up period. It's not every day that a tenant's going to use that restaurant space the last tenant built out.
Yeah.
So these are all little things to keep in mind, but that's why I'm really excited about mixed use right now, and why my team and I are looking into that a little bit further.
Yeah, just trying to source more of those deals because it makes sense that they would be more responsive when they don't have that financing angle. You can't go to 50-year AMs.
How do you argue it?
You can't go to 40 even. You're sticking with the 25, sometimes even less, 20, 15, depends on what the bank will give you.
More than that, but.
Well, I mean, look at what we were just offered on our camp, right? 20. It's not always a 25 even. It depends on the building. It depends on, what their risk appetite is at the lender. So,
and the down payment might be you might be 65.
Higher down payment.
So all the little tips and tricks that all these realtors and buyers and sellers have been using, saying, well, here's how you structure the deal and I could still get myself a 4.5 cap.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist with this stuff.
I mean, the signs point to that eventually the market will likely respond and change. And if it's taking longer or there are reasons that are stopping it from happening on the res side, like my thought is, eventually they'll respond more. But we'll also probably see rents go up more too. So you'll see a kind of combined effect.
It is. And I think the CMHC thing was a bit of a slap in the face for anybody who didn't have an application in.
Yeah.
Right. So there are going to be, I think we're going to see a bit of a dramatic effect from that over the next few months.
A slowing of sales.
But as we bring in, more population to the country.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of foreign money that are just going to come in and just buy these up. Yeah. There's going to be more people that need places to live. And that's one of those things that happened over the course of the lockdowns and all the craziness is that rents just went insane.
Yeah.
And it's just, people need housing.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I was just talking to a colleague of mine in the industry that I respect, and he sent me an email and we were talking about this exact thing, right? And then he just put his line at the bottom and he just said, this is investing 101.
Yeah.
Like what we're talking about is literally the most basic fundamentals of apartment building investing.
Yeah.
Like there will be more rent, right? Everybody's I think so caught off by the market right now and scared or timid or whatever you want to call it, that they don't make clear decisions on things.
Yeah.
Maybe they're aggressive because they think it's a good time to buy. Maybe they're not buying for the next 2 years. But at the end of the day, it's still investing 101. If you run the deal and the math makes sense, it doesn't matter if it's this market, the next market, the market before. Yeah. Like it's the product. It's not the time in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Simeon, who's your colleague, put it well. I saw a video floating around online of him talking and just saying like we're witnessing like an incredible housing crisis that's been exacerbated by the fact that a lot of builders and developers are scared to start projects right now because they don't know what their profitability will be. Yeah. There's so much red tape. We're still pouring people into the country. So when we were already restricted, making about 250,000 housing starts a year in Canada and immigrating 500,000 to 1 million people in the last couple of years, now we're going to bring that number down. Yeah. And if anything, that's going to make the problem worse. So although there is the doom and gloom out there, there's the other side. And this is how I assess it as two competing forces, which will win. Yeah. People still need a place to live. It's a tricky one. It makes it hard to figure out what'll happen. But that's why, a lot of people are bullish on the long term of Canada because they just see, where are these people going to go?
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's why if you find deals that fundamentally make sense and you're okay holding them longer. Yeah. Right. That's all we've been doing. We've just taken the same deals and we go, okay, instead of looking at this as a 1-year turnaround, we're going to look at it as a 5-year turnaround. Yeah. Or a 10-year turnaround. And if it doesn't make sense at 5 years or 10 years, then why are you even looking at it, right? But
exactly. That's what fundamental real estate is.
The 1 year is a bit even frightening for myself, right? Sure. To say, hey, is this really? Were we really turning this around in 1 year? I don't think so. And so
who knows what happens in the short term? No one knows for sure, right? Yeah. So, anyways, Jake, if people want to find out about more off-market product like this one, some fundamentally good real estate, or we hope anyway, where do we send them?
Yeah, link down below.
Yep.
As always.
There'll be a place where you can fill out your info, and somebody from Jake's team would get in touch.
Yep. And you guys have the option. You can put your email or phone number. I would always prefer a phone number. We've had a few people sign up lately. It was just emails, right? So it's just tougher to get in touch, right? We send an email out. Hey, what time works for a call? Yeah. Things like that. But if I can just reach out and we can have a quick 10-minute right off the bat, I think it excels that process, and I can learn everything about you in 10-minute call, 15-minute call.
Not everything, but enough to move to the next step.
Well, that's it, right? And enough to say, hey, okay, well, here's a building, here's a mixed use.
Yeah.
What do we want to do, right?
Makes sense.
Cool. So try to put your phone numbers if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But I would rather you sign up than not sign up. So
sure,
put in there what you want, and let's have that initial call.
Awesome. And if you made it this far, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, show some love to the channel, and tune in next week. We'll be back.
Right on.